Your column this week was very interesting, probably one of the most interesting I've seen, because what we saw in the Arizona case was Antonin Scalia clearly legislating from the bench and playing politics. If you could comment on that, because I don't think everybody in this room saw that op-ed. Thank you.
If I can start off, I just want to say, I ran into EJ earlier, and we were talking about this column, and he said, well, I could have just said, oh, Scalia, isn't he terrible? But then I'd just be another liberal, complaining about Scalia. So I decided to stir the pot a little and call on him to resign.
Right. I thought that it was enough for liberals to wring their hands because I thought he crossed a very important line here, that he had been pushing the line for a long time. I mean, there's a famous case of Dick Cheney having a case coming up to the court, and then he went duck hunting with Dick Cheney, and he said this. He put out a 22-page statement saying he doesn't have to recuse himself, and noted that he had not, hunted in the same blind as Vice President Cheney or really discussed the case with him. So no one had any reason to worry about whether he'd rule fairly. And there were other cases where, but here I thought the reason I went to saying he should resign is because he crossed a line into politics in a way that I don't think justices should cross or typically do cross. Because he did two things in that bench statement. One is he attacked implicitly, but fairly explicitly criticized President Obama's decision on the DREAM, to do a version of the DREAM Act through executive order. The DREAM Act had nothing to do with the Arizona case. In other words, if you wanted to criticize President Obama on something connected with the case, well, okay. But this was just an intervention in a live political issue that seemed totally out of line with the conventions that judges live by, because they've got a lot of unaccountable power. And we count on them to, live by certain rules. Then there was another paragraph where it sounded like a speech at a Tea Party rally about Arizona suffering under illegal immigration and on people's front lawns and all this. I mean, it really was a straight Tea Party rally speech. And so I crossed the line from just hand-wringing liberal criticism of Scalia to saying this is beyond the pale. And so that's why I wrote that column. And obviously it's part of a larger critique of what I see as a conservative willingness to use the courts in a way to assert conservative power that I think goes beyond anything that passes for restraint. Begins with Bush v. Gore, it goes to Citizens United. The other decision this week that didn't get that much attention was involving the Service Employees Union, where on the one hand, at least a couple of liberals agreed that there needed to be some check on that. But then there was an additional 5-judge majority that it looked like it violated a rule of the court where they stepped out and decided an issue that wasn't even in the case that came very close to enacting a national right to work law. And this is just an abuse of judicial power, I believe. But I think Justice Scalia in this case, maybe we can argue about what decisions they make, but this just stepped way beyond that. So that's why I went there.